Thank you. Our third question, and we'll start with Sarah, is our country's deficit will soon exceed $1 trillion. What legislation or actions will you support increasing revenue, reducing spending to address this growing problem?
Yeah, thanks so much. Look, we have a deficit that exploded 23% year on year this June. I mean, take that into account. We are literally spending money we don't have, borrowing to finance it, and driving up the national debt to levels unseen in our lifetimes. And this will have consequences far beyond the immediate future, guys. Again, I think about the world that my kids will inherit. They will be saddled with crippling debt that makes it so that our government, our federal government, can't properly invest in education, in infrastructure, in public health, in the kinds of incentives to create a green energy economy that we all want to see and that we're going to have to save the environment. There are far-reaching consequences to this deficit crisis. And I think as senator, one of the things we can do is make sure companies are paying their fair share of taxes. We have multi-billion-dollar corporations in this country who literally are paying fewer dollars in taxes than some of you guys. I mean, you need to take that in for a minute. And guys, they're not cheating. They're literally taking advantage of the system the way it exists today. Because we have lawmakers in office who refuse to hold them accountable for paying their fair share of investing in America's future. And here's the thing, guys. If you chronically underinvest in the education of our youth, the next generation of the workforce, if you chronically underinvest in infrastructure, whether it's the power grid or roads and bridges and tunnels, if you chronically underinvest in the health and well-being of your people, what do you think economic competitiveness looks like 10 and 20 years down the road? Because it's not a pretty picture. So I'm tired of hearing about how the GOP is a pro-business party or that they understand the economy. The data shows us that the economy overperforms when Democrats are in charge because we know return on investment in our people presumes we're making an investment in the first place. It's not just about driving that top line up, guys. We've got to spend those dollars wisely. It's not about kickbacks and givebacks and loopholes for people who don't need it. We have the ability to eradicate poverty in this country, to make sure that no matter where you start in life, you have the opportunity to achieve your potential. We can achieve economic justice for every man, woman, and child in this nation. But we cannot do it if we continue to spend based on politicians who are bought and paid for by special interests. I'm not taking $1 of corporate PAC money, and that's exactly why. We will address this budget. We had a budget surplus when Bill Clinton left office, and if we put Democrats in charge of the Senate and the White House, we can do it again, y'all. That's what we're going to do.
All right, let's just look at the last 20 years. We have squandered trillions of dollars on unnecessary war. We have squandered trillions of dollars on bailouts for banks that failed to live up to their fiduciary obligations. We have squandered trillions of dollars on tax cuts for the wealthiest donors and the best connected trade lobbies. And then Donald Trump and David Perdue tell us there's no money for Medicaid. There's no money for food stamps. I think the term is gaslighting. It's nonsense. It's nonsense, and they're hypocrites. And David Perdue, this man is a comprehensive fraud. This man, he calls himself an outsider. He is the cousin of the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. He is the cousin of the former governor in Georgia. He has been described as the President of the United States' favorite senator. $2 million in corporate PAC money, an outsider. And let me remind everybody that when this guy ran for Senate in 2014, he said solemnly that his top priority, that what he would deliver as our U.S. Senator, would be to get the out-of-control federal debt under control. He has failed. And he's not only failed in that obligation, he has failed in his obligation to put his constituents and his state and his conscience above his disgusting allegiance to a president who does not deserve any allegiance, who does not deserve his respect, let alone his service. And I will tell you this, no matter which one of us takes this man on as your Democratic nominee, he will be exposed because he has prostrated himself before this president. He is his obedient servant.
Yep.
Well, Georgia needs a public servant for Georgia, not an errand boy for Donald Trump.
David Perdue said he was going to go to the United States Senate. He was going to balance the U.S. budget and get rid of our deficit because he was a CEO that knew how to do that. Well, the man has failed us. We know from the Office of Management Budget that our budget deficit will soon be $1 trillion, 3 times more than it would have been had David Perdue never shown up. So the first order of business is to reverse the Trump tax cut, which does not help this country at all. Which has harmed middle class and lower income families, which it actually is burning our seed corn right now, is making any future recession that we might have impossible to recover from without grave consequences to our middle income families. And so folks, we need people who understand the importance of middle income families, who understand that government is the framework in which we live our most prosperous life, who knows how to understand and run government. And that is through policies that honor hard-working families, that celebrate labor, that provide for a living wage and appends a cost of living adjustment to that. Begin to shift our policies and our focus and our investment to the families of this country. Gets rid of tariff wars on our own farmers. The suicide rate on Georgia farmers has spiked because of these ridiculous tariff wars. We are wasting money at our border, not making them more secure, but supporting the reckless policies that are diminishing our reputation around the world and defying our own principles of being a nation built by immigrants and the inspiration of being a better people and pursuing prosperity through freedom. That's how we're wasting money. And we can get rid of these useless, ineffective policies that are diminishing our reputation at home and abroad. And we can realize that the United States government is the greatest civic invention that mankind has ever known. And we need leaders that understand that, and we need leaders that understand how to run public financing. Thank you very much.
The question was, what are we going to do to reduce the deficits? Well, I've got lots of ideas. Progressive taxation, rolling back the corporate tax cuts. The number one thing that I think that we can do is deal with the healthcare crisis that we have in this country. Medicare. So when David Perdue talked about he's going to, rein in the deficit, what he's really talking about is ending entitlements. All right, their ploy is to starve the beast. All right, this is Grover Norquist's 30-year plan. Starve the beast. Bring us to the brink of financial ruin to where we have to cut back Social Security and Medicare. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for that. And in fact, we need to expand Medicare. We need to expand Social Security because it's not providing the social safety net that is needed in the 21st century. I'm supporting Medicare for all. Here's the number one reason why. Medicare is the first of the entitlement programs that is slated to become insolvent. More money being taken out that's putting in on an annual basis. The only way that we can deal with the 40 million Americans that are going to be aging and needing long-term care, which, by the way, is the most expensive part of the healthcare system. It is the end of life. Private insurance doesn't cover it. Medicare and Medicaid have to cover it by law. You literally have to go bankrupt before Medicaid and Medicare will take care of nursing home, of home care, of long-term care that people need. The only way that we make Medicare solvent for this generation and for future generations is if we have a truly universal healthcare system. I'm supporting Medicare for all because every other country, modern country, developed country in the world has done it. All right? And yeah, every system is a little bit different. Some have a little bit of private insurance here and there. But the core underlying facet of their healthcare system is everyone is taken care of, everyone is covered, no one is left behind.